Good day, I'm Hershey Angeline B. Mahilum from BSBA HRM 24D, and today we're going to talk about the corporate governance as an international perspective. First, let's talk about the traditional principal-agent conflicts versus the principal-principal conflicts, how they differ along dimensions. As we can see in the illustration, in terms of goal congruence, principal-agent conflicts are in between shareholders and professional managers who own a relatively small portion of the firm's equity, while principal-principal conflicts are in between controlling shareholders and minority of shareholders. Of ownership pattern, principal-agent conflicts disperse. 5% to 20% is considered concentrated ownership, while in principal-principal conflicts, it is concentrated. Often greater than 50% of equity is controlled by controlling shareholders. Third is manifestations. In principal-agent conflicts, strategies that benefit entrench managers at the expense of shareholders in general. Example is shirking, pet projects, excessive compensation, and empire building. Principal-principal conflicts. Strategies that benefit controlling shareholders at the expense of minority shareholders. Example is minority shareholder expropriation, nepotism, and cronyism. Lastly is the institutional protection of minority shareholders. In principal-agent conflicts, it is formal constraints. Example is the judicial reviews and courts. Set an upper boundary on potential expropriation by majority shareholders. Informal norms generally adhere to shareholder wealth maximization. In principal-principal conflicts, it is formal institutional protection is often lacking, corrupted, or unenforced. Informal norms are typically in favor of the interests of controlling shareholders ahead of those of minority investors. There are three conditions for principal-principal conflicts to occur. First is a dominant owner or group of owners who have interests that are distinct from minority shareholders. Second is the motivation for the controlling shareholders to exercise their dominant positions to their advantage. Third is the few formal, such as legislation or regulatory bodies, or informal constraints that would discourage or prevent the controlling shareholders from exploiting their advantageous positions. What is business groups? It is a set of firms that, though legally independent, are bound together by a constellation of formal and informal ties and are accustomed to taking coordinated action. Business groups are especially common in emerging economies, and they differ from the organizational forms in that they are communities of firms without clear boundaries. Now, let's talk about creating effective organizational designs. What is organizational structures? It refers to the formalized patterns of interactions that link a firm's tasks, technologies, and people. Structures help to ensure that resources are used effectively in accomplishing an organization's mission. Structures provide a means of balancing two conflicting forces, a need for the division of tasks into meaningful groupings, and the need to integrate such groupings in order to ensure efficiency and effectiveness. Structure identifies the executive, managerial, and administrative organization of a firm and indicates responsibilities and hierarchical relationships. It also influences the flow of information as well as the context and nature of human interactions. Next one is the patterns of growth of large corporations, strategy structure relationships. A firm's strategy and structure change as it increases in size, diversifies into new product markets, and expands its geographic scope. The first of the structures is the simple structure. The simple organization structure is the oldest and most common organizational form. The owner-manager controls all activities and the staff serves as an extension of the top executive. Of course, it has its own advantages. The simple structure is highly informal and the coordination of tasks is accomplished by direct supervision. Characteristics of this structure include highly centralized decision-making, little specialization of tasks, few rules and regulations, and an informal evaluation and reward system. Although the owner manager is intimately involved in almost all phases of the business, a manager is often employed to oversee day-to-day operations. But it also has its own disadvantages. A simple structure may foster creativity and individualism since there are generally few rules and regulations. However, such informality may lead to problems. Second, employees may take advantage of the lack of regulations and act in their own self-interest, which can erode motivation and satisfaction and lead to the possible misuse of organizational resources. Lastly, is that small organizations have flat structures that limit opportunities for upward mobility. Without the potential for future advancement, recruiting and retaining talent may become very difficult. Next is the functional structure. As firms grow, excessive demands may be placed on the owner-manager in order to obtain and process all of the information necessary to run the business. Such growth in the overall scope and complexity of the business necessitates a functional organization structure wherein the major functions of the firm are grouped internally. Let's talk about its advantages. By bringing together specialists into functional departments, a firm is able to enhance its coordination and control within each of the functional areas. Decision-making in the firm will be centralized at the top of the organization. Second, this enhances the organizational level as opposed to functional area, perspective across the various functions in the organization. In addition, the functional structure provides for a more efficient use of managerial and technical talent since functional area expertise is pulled in a single department. Example is marketing, instead of being spread across a variety of product market areas. Third, career paths and professional development in specialized areas are facilitated. Let's talk about its disadvantages. The differences in values and orientations among functional areas may impede communication and coordination. Edgar Schein of MIT has argued that shared assumptions, often based on similar backgrounds and experiences of members, form around functional units in an organization. This leads to what are often called stovepipes or silos, in which departments view themselves as isolated, self-contained units with little need for interaction and coordination with other departments. This erodes communication because functional groups may have not only different goals but also differing meanings and words and concepts. The illustration shows how the functional organizational structure works. The third one is the divisional structure. The divisional organizational structure, sometimes called the multidivisional structure or M-form, is organized around products, projects, or markets. Each of the divisions, in turn, includes its own functional specialists who are typically organized into departments. Let's talk about its advantages. By creating separate divisions to manage individual product markets, there is a separation of strategic and operating control. Divisional managers can focus their efforts on improving operations in the product markets for which they are responsible, and corporate officers can devote their time to overall strategic issues for the entire corporation. Last, the focus on a division's products or markets by the divisional executives provides to the corporation with an enhanced ability to respond quickly to important changes. On the other hand, it also has its disadvantages. It can be very expensive. There can be increased cost due to the duplication of personnel, operations, and investment since each division must staff multiple functional departments. There also can be dysfunctional competition among divisions since each division tends to become concerned solely about its operations. If goals are conflicting, there can be a sense of zero-sum game that would discourage sharing ideas and resources among the divisions for the common good of the corporation. Strategic. There are two variations of the divisional form. One is the Strategic Business Unit (SBU) structure and the Holding Company structure. Strategic Business Unit or SBU structure is an organizational form in which products, projects, or product market divisions are grouped into homogeneous units. It has its own advantages. The SBU structure makes the task of planning and control by the corporate office more manageable. Also, with greater decentralization of authority, individual businesses can react more quickly to important changes in the environment than if all divisions had to report directly to the corporate office. Let's talk about its disadvantages. Since the divisions are grouped into SBUs, it may become difficult to achieve synergies across SBUs. If divisions' different SBUs have potential sources of synergy, it may become difficult for them to be realized. Second, the additional level of management increases the number of personnel and overhead expenses, while the additional hierarchical level removes the corporate office further from the individual divisions. Last is the holding company structure. It is appropriate when the businesses in a corporation's portfolio do not have much in common. Thus, the potential for synergies is limited. Holding company structures are more appropriate for firms with the strategy of unrelated diversification. Let's talk about its advantages. The holding company structure has the cost saving associated with fewer personnel and the lower overhead resulting from a smaller corporate office and a fewer hierarchical levels. The autonomy of the holding company structure increases the motivational level of divisional executives and enables them to respond quickly to market opportunities and trends. Its disadvantages includes that there is an inherent lack of control and dependence that corporate level executives have on divisional executives. Major problems could arise if key divisional executives leave the firm because the corporate office has very little bench strength additional managerial talent ready to quickly fill positions. And last is, if problems arise in a division, it may become very difficult to turn around individual businesses because of limited staff support in the corporate office. And that's all. Thank you.